Hello everyone, this is Loman Batan. Today we will talk about cables. Which are quality, which are low quality, which ones are worth buying and which ones are not. What to pay attention to when choosing. And how not to mess up. Just look at how neatly the internet technicians lay their cables. The garlands are made of whole cables. And as you can clearly see, primarily 90% of the cables are more affordable ones for indoor installation, which are particularly the black ones for knife installation. They feel flexible and elastic in texture, even though it is currently minus outside. However, the cables for indoor installation, when I bend them, the sheath develops cracks over time. After that, water will get into the cable and gradually make their way towards the router or computer, eventually to the final end device. The situation with coaxial cables is in the same manner, exactly the same. Most people install cables for indoor use and then ultimately end up paying a significant amount more for the repair of the satellite receiver because water gets to it. They incur costs for cable replacement and installation, pay for a new cable. Here is a cable from the satellite dish. If you bend it just once, that's it. It has a crack. Clearly, even if you don't specifically force it, cracks will appear at the bends. Cracks will appear at the bends on downward slopes. Cracks will appear on the vertical part of the cable as it will be shaken by the wind. Cracks will be everywhere. Moisture gradually seeps onto the outer shell during rain, penetrating inside through the cracks. Later, when the snow melts, moisture gets inside the cable. Also, when it melts, moisture will also get inside and water will run down. Here, people approach the installation of the satellite antenna thoughtfully. I didn't install it, but respect to the guys. First of all, satellite converters are expensive and of high quality, and the cables are for outdoor installation. Here, pay attention. The black cable. Let's take a look. B coil start. My favorite. I consider it the most optimal in terms of price and quality. By installing such a cable, one can be confident that there will be no problems with it. This, of course, is provided that it is secured and installed correctly. And now let's see how it is laid out, how it is secured. Wow. Here guys, we have a fatal mistake. This is something that absolutely should not have been done. Here, they replaced a piece of cable. It is clear that the cable was originally white. Here is the old one. They replaced it, but left the old piece. And still, the water will flow. The water will collect at the connection. Moreover, the connection is wrapped in electrical tape. Definitely neutral. And here we see, oh you little rascal. Another connection. And here, there is some black cable with a green stripe laid out. I can't understand at all what kind of cable this is. There's no parking on it at all. The cable feels good to the touch. Well, something like that. It seems suitable for outdoor installation. It seems that the cables were cut by thieves. This has been happening a lot lately, and they decided to change only a small piece. Why do it like that? They have already pulled literally 5 meters of cable, made a connection there, and did it as it should be done. The idea seems good, but not fully realized. What do various national networks offer us? The cheapest PCI.
Yeah, just like that. A little occlusion, a gentle occlusion, a regular indoor cable, the cheapest for indoor installation. Here is Hardy, the best outdoor cable. So, there is a robust 4-layer dense screen from Stark, which is my absolute favorite among all the options available, offering unparalleled quality and performance. Besides that, there is a fully copper one, probably from Sprint, priced at $11.88, which is quite reasonable considering its full copper construction. The bimetal feels decent, providing a satisfactory experience, but I often run outside without putting it on, as it is not always necessary. The brand from RZH6 feels better, of course, in terms of quality and durability, making it a preferred choice for many. I have hidden here a Fenmark 690 with a copper core. The price is certainly justified for long distances, ensuring reliable performance over extended use. The central conductor is made of pure copper. I once installed 130 meters of it, which was a significant undertaking. Now it's time to poke around these cables, starting with the weakest sample, the PCI RV6 cable, which is known for its specific characteristics. As you can see, the shielding braid is quite thin. Then the foil screen separates from the central dielectric, which is not glued, indicating a potential area of concern. Then the central conductor obviously is not pure copper, which might affect its overall conductivity. In general, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's just under a millimeter, around 0.9, which is a critical measurement for assessing its suitability. This level of detail is crucial for understanding the quality and performance of these cables, providing insights into their construction and potential applications. This cable is used, as can be seen from the insulation. Well, it hasn't been used that much, and it hasn't lost its elasticity, but I can assure you, after a few years on the roof, it starts to crumble. The next sample is the legendary Fenmark 690 for indoor installation, which has been outside. You can already see the crack in the elasticity of the outer sheath. I am bending it now, and the elasticity is still preserved. When I cut a piece, this crack appeared. Here, the core and the shielding braid are aluminum, which is much better. The cable is much stronger, with the central conductor being slightly over a millimeter, probably even 1.05, but it is not for outdoor use. It's a good cable, but not for outdoor use. Cracks appear, water seeps in, and so on. Then there is the same Fenmark 690 BB, without gel impregnation. I actively used this cable at one time. This cable has been on site for about 5 years. As you can see, I wiped it with a cloth, and it looks almost like new. I can compare it with the B-coil Stark cable, which is new. It doesn't shine quite the same, but the elasticity is preserved. The central conductor, when cut, seems to be pure copper, although this cable shouldn't be. With a central conductor made of pure copper, here, the foil is already glued to the central dielectric and does not peel off like it does on the PCI cable. The cable has lasted 5 years. How much longer can it last? Well, only God knows, very long. It is a very good cable. The next sample, the last of the used cables, is an Italian cable or cabel. This cable was actively used when installing satellite internet for the elections in 2012. There was such a topic. A law on video surveillance during elections was passed, and I participated in its implementation. I installed satellite internet sets in neighboring areas in the Pervograd region. I moved them around a lot. The cable is very good. It is, of course, dirty, but among all the cables that were left outside, they generally do not lose their elasticity. The cable remains elastic, no matter what. The foil here, of course, lags behind the central dielectric, but the braid itself is no longer aluminum, but tinned copper. You need to strip it like this with a knife to remove the top layer. I don't know if you can see the reddish shades of the braid in the video, but the braid is copper. The cable is very good for transmitting signals over long distances. The cable is of very high quality. Well, it's metal, but it is very expensive. At an exchange rate of 8, its purchase price was around 7 hryvnias, therefore it hasn't really caught on with us. But it was used during the elections. After the elections, these kits were used for installation. Satellite internet is specifically for individuals and legal entities, and we use this cable, which is really great and efficient. Moving on to new cables, I will thoroughly review the Bicoil brand, as it is most widely available in retail stores. I was at the epicenter and called a consultant, but unfortunately, the consultant mumbled something incoherent and couldn't explain anything about the cable, even though it says on his special equipment that he is a supplier representative. It's a sad and disappointing situation. Let's start with the frost cable. It is the thinnest and has a denser braid compared to the cheapest cable available. The foil is securely glued to the central dielectric, and the diameter of the central conductor is about 1 millimeter, possibly a bit more, but it measures 1 millimeter on my caliper. The cable looks decent. I like the shape of the braid that comes through the outer insulation, which is typical for cables of the Finnmark brand. Finnmark is a brand I don't use in my work. It's primarily for internal wiring. Although it says frost, it is likely frost resistant, but I don't think it is resistant to sunlight and ultraviolet, so I wouldn't recommend using it outdoors. However, for internal wiring, it is a very good cable at a reasonable price. The next representative from the white cables is also the Bicoil brand, the ProBoost cable. Here everything is more serious. As we can see, the foil is glued to the central dielectric as well. It looks thicker. If the frost cable is about 6.6 millimeters, this one is already over 7, around 7.2 millimeters. It is thicker. Look, the 4-layer screen consists of a central dielectric, then there is a foil glued to the central dielectric, followed by a layer of braid, then another layer of foil, and finally another layer of braid, with the outer sheath being the last part. This cable is used for GPS antennas and heat meters in our city that measure heat in homes. The requirements for the cable are very serious, and it handles interference protection well. In my work, I don't use such a cable because I don't need that level of interference protection, but it is necessary where sound is transmitted or even video. I think this cable would perform better for video signal transmission, especially where signals are sent for GPS or Wi-Fi. This cable is excellent, but I don't use it in my work. The next cable is the start cable from the Bicoil brand, which I use in my work. It is marked 666, 660. There is 1660. There is 690. The last two digits indicate the filling percentage of the braid, 60 and 90% respectively. But sometimes I take such a cable. It is not in a 100-meter reel, but there are also 305 meters. The most important thing is that it has a gel impregnation. Even if the outer shell of the cable is damaged and it lies in the snow or water, this gel feels like a soft material. You see, my hands are greasy. After I touch the braid, it repels water and has water repellent properties, preventing water from entering the cable. The cable is excellent in terms of price-quality ratio. I mainly use it. The next cable is the Bond cable, like in that joke. Bond, James Bond. This cable is marked 660 BVM with 60% braid filling. The foil is also glued to the central part, and it is already without gel, but its distinctive feature is the presence of steel wire. It is used for pulls between houses, between poles. If you need to hang the cable on a very tall building, from a 16-story building to a 9-story one, you don't have to worry about it breaking or tearing along with the other wire. It has very good mechanical properties. This review concludes with the Hardy cable. The Hardy cable has the same characteristics as the Robust cable. It is the same diameter, but it is black, which means it is suitable for outdoor installation. The cable is very strong and rigid. I even tried hanging on it, and it doesn't even creak, let alone break. It has very good mechanical properties as well. It also has a 4-layer shield. The foil is glued to the central dielectric. Then comes the braid, followed by another layer of foil, then another braid, and only then the outer shell. Once, at the dawn of my activity, when I was involved in satellite television, I exclusively used the cheapest cable. After several years of work, I noticed that sometimes it breaks, especially over long distances. In principle, the signal did not drop significantly, but over long distances, the voltage loss was greater than that of more expensive counterparts, and therefore, as I understand it, the signals from the receiver were not always transmitted correctly. Over time, I noticed that there are problems in the operation and correct switching of converters, and I confirmed the incorrect functioning. I used a satellite antenna with such a cable over long distances and realized that if it hangs from tall buildings, for example, if the antenna is installed on the roof of a 9-story building and the television is located on the 2nd or 3rd floor at a great height, it eventually breaks. Those thin strands break, and then it stops working. Later, I switched to this type of cable. Well, with Finmark, I created the brand Sprint, which had stiffer strands, and the cable no longer broke and transmitted the signal better. However, over time, I faced another problem. Water. Water gets into the Beshka cable, runs into the receiver, and takes the receiver out of service. And if I laid the cable and then people did renovations, making cable replacement impossible, it only worsened the situation. I even felt uncomfortable looking people in the eye. After that, I switched to Finmark. The Beshka is black, and when the green treated cable appeared, I started using BVF cable, which guaranteed that the cable would last for a significant period of time, and I wouldn't be called for maintenance and repair work for a while. Transitioning to more expensive cables was very painful. It was a challenging transition, and it was hard for me to compete effectively on price and justify the cost difference. People would ask over the phone why the cable costs 5 hryvnias when they could find it for 3 in the market. I didn't even know how to respond at first. Then I started explaining that the cable is of superior quality and more reliable. I began doing things differently. I created a comprehensive bundle of various types of cables, including those that were already cracked and used, and carried them in my vehicle's glove compartment to demonstrate the differences. When I arrived at a client's location, if I was winning the tender, I would say, "Let me explain on site. You won't want the inexpensive, lower quality cable and its associated drawbacks." When I approached the client with such a bundle and showed them, no one chose the cheap cable anymore. No one looked at the price. When they saw what happened to the cheap cable, no one wanted it. My colleagues were extremely outraged and frustrated that they couldn't sell such an expensive cable, and were astonished and surprised at my success. Currently, our brand Bicoil is well represented in most places, including Epicenter and markets. They have captured the market with a very competitive and interesting price point that doesn't actually lag behind Finmark in terms of characteristics. It is already cheaper, and the manufacturer promises that it uses environmentally safe polyvinyl chloride material, which is free from harmful substances, meaning that lead, mercury, and cadmium are not used in the production of the outer sheath. Therefore, this cable does not emit any harmful vapors or toxic substances when used indoors. This cable has exceptionally good coaxiality and alignment of the central conductor, and I am extremely satisfied with its performance and quality. At the moment, I believe this cable has virtually no competitors in the current market in terms of price-quality ratio. This is a concise yet comprehensive overview of the product's features and benefits. I hope you liked it. At the end of the video, a final cherry on top of this discussion. When I spoke with a sales consultant at the store, well, a consultant in so-called quotes, he said that this cable wouldn't be entirely suitable for the required installation because I wouldn't be able to screw on the F connector. Let's try to dispel this common myth and misconception. I protect the cable with a cable stripper tool, which I find very effective. I like to do it with a stripper. I carefully cut through the insulation to the required length, then strip away the outer protective sheath with precision. It takes some considerable effort and attention to detail to ensure there are no strands that short-circuit on the plate or the central conductor. You need to gently twist it a bit to ensure proper alignment and firmly press it down to secure it in place. But I wouldn't bend it back excessively because it could hinder the process. And after that, we screw the connector onto the cable. It's very difficult to do this by hand. Then, after we have attached it, we twist it with pliers. And after he tightly twisted the connector, it sits very firmly and doesn't come off. We check our work and see that there are no strands. The myth is debunked, and we managed to twist it without any issues. This is a cable picker. If you liked it, subscribe to my channel, give a like, and ask questions in the comments. I will be happy to answer you. Bye everyone.